we go. So I give them this position as education. What you're saying is that there is a problem giving somebody the job who is unqualified in that space, even if they are my friend and they beat the drums the loudest.
I'm actually saying there is a problem giving that job to someone who's unqualified, number one. I'm saying there's something fundamentally wrong with fast-tracking the appointment just so that you can service the patronage network and ignoring the rules of the Constitution about how those kinds of appointments should be done. I am also saying when you appoint these people, one of the things that you have sacrificed on the altar of servicing those patronage networks is the services to the people. It is the integrity of that position and the fact that some of those appointments are normally for corruption purposes. If I'm going to appoint you,
she said the C word.
Well, she said it.
If I'm going to appoint you to a position, I actually want you to move certain things for me, and so I get the person who will be the most obedient.
Other interests.
Correct.
Now, the Constitution provides for one meritocracy. It does not provide for rewarding and gifting people who really campaigned for you or otherwise. Also, the Constitution is very clear that there are checks and balances. They know there's something you must meet, their qualifications, the bare minimums that you must hold for you to assume a certain position. By and large, there is also payment because we pay these people. I say we need to stop calling them other names. These are our employees. We're giving you a job, execute, and you get paid. If you are in private sector, you would not tolerate having an employee that does not deliver on their targets, on their mandate. Why do we as Kenyans, because you mentioned something that the president's list falls short of the president falls short on friends. He qualified friends he can appoint.
But he has so many advisors.
I think the president's list of qualifications for you to be appointed falls short.
Doesn't exist.
Because there has to be a criteria that we say and we hold ourselves to, guided by the Constitution. This is our bare minimum. Because when we do this, we breed inefficiency, we breed incompetence, and we lose revenue. We waste taxes. Lives are lost because all these services that the government is supposed to make sure that we receive are public good. You're talking of roads, health, education. So it's not just a conversation about getting somebody into a position. I look at the impact that incompetence, that compromise of quality and qualification gives us as Kenyans and the cost. How do we turn around to say that though we will politic, though we are going to an election, though people will need to be hired, we must get it right? Because again, it affects the public policy. It affects the public good. How do we turn around?
Well, I hear two things. I hear you asking whether directing a question of citizens' responsibilities and obligation to know exactly what they need to demand accountability from the governments of the day. And I agree that you're looking at, and here I think the conversation could be that we are looking at national government, even county governments, because we probably have more problems also in county governments, with regards to appointing, very covert missions that are done in county governments with appointing and rewardees. Well, I think we bequeath ourselves with a constitution. Ideally, we had a constitution that really spells out on how every leader should be given responsibility, how they are sent to these particular positions. And the court, equally, when there is a petition that are brought before the courts, one of the things they look at is those appointments vis-a-vis the courts, because the Constitution, the laws, and they pronounce themselves on that. Majorly always looking at Article 10 of the Constitution, Article 47 of the Constitution, 232 on appointments of public service. But again, the judiciary has been doing a lot of work in terms of, just saying this is illegal, and you go back and reconsider that position. You call about separation of powers. What has the executive been doing? The executive had been, the major contributor to this. And we are talking about the executive, we are talking about the presidency. For example, I need to understand as a citizen, why does the president have how many advisors so far? And what they're advising, what is their advisory docket that they're advising? Number two, in terms of placement of appointments, and Stella just mentioned, I think is one of you probably who mentioned the Seto, about the Ministry of Health. I don't think it's only the Ministry of Health. There is a number of irregular appointments across the ministry. If we had to vet these ministries, then you'll find that the cabinet secretaries, whose positions are cabinet secretaries, normally they say that probably we are not. One of the things I've heard, realistically speaking, in political circle is that a cabinet secretary is just a representative. That whoever is in charge of a ministry is a principal secretary.
They run the thing.
You know, they run the thing. So for them, their main appointing persons, their main strong persons are always the PS. They're saying that this is a person that probably is in charge of the ministry. Cabinet secretaries come and go. Another argument that I've had, probably in the political circle, is that once a cabinet secretary is given a position, he or she has a list of advisors, all right? He or she has a list of researchers, you know, as a list of legal advisors and, you know, in all fields. And therefore, by any nature, these particular individuals are able to perform because there are people around them who tells them how to do their work. You know, so this has been an argument that has been there. Now, what you're saying is, does the citizens know exactly how to call for accountability in this process? You know, it's which I think is a very complicated process, because it's a political process, and it is the conversation right there. It's at a level where citizens could probably think that, you know, this is an issue out of our hands, and probably the courts are the ones that are able to probably spell themselves, or litigants or civil society that has to go and question. So the place of a citizen, the place of a voter, the place of, you know, any one of us would probably look towards a judiciary in filing these petitions, probably in a protest that led to the dissolution of entire cabinet in, you know, June 2024, or towards certain processes that would call for accountability in these.
You know, you look at let's compare public and private sector, right? If it's in the private sector, and I'm gonna throw it back to individuals who are in office today. These individuals run businesses out here, and in the businesses that they do run, they do not just go around picking anyone. They will look at your CV and whether you're qualified to run those positions. We're talking about individuals who are serving in public office, including the president himself, his private businesses. It is not just people who shouted most that he appoints in those businesses. There are people who have the mettle to run those businesses. You know what I mean? But still, when it comes to public sector, is where we can throw any Tom, Dick, and Harry to